Hey, it's me. It's Greg Schweitzer here at Catalyst Transformation. Listen, I want to talk to you about being intentional, but I want to talk about it in a new way. I actually want to talk to you about why intention is just not enough. These days, we hear a lot, actually, in the last several years, we've heard a lot about being intentional, right? Being purposeful with what you're doing and having intention. And if you just have the right intention, then things will manifest for you and that kind of thing. And sort of. It's just not quite enough. And I want to explain to you why. So let's talk firstly about what is intention to begin with. Okay. So I want to give you this interesting definition. If you look up the dictionary definition of intention, it says two things. Number one, it says intention is like an aim or a plan to make something happen. Okay. An aim or a plan. Okay. The other thing that it says is that intention is a conscious decision to perform a behavior. Okay, so you're making a conscious decision to aim at something or to plan out how to make something happen. Okay, that's intention. So then why is it not enough? What's wrong with making an aim or a plan, right? Doesn't everybody tell us to make a plan? Doesn't the world of performance and business and getting stuff done and fitness and all kind of stuff say, you gotta have a plan, you gotta follow the plan, okay? Making a decision, deciding what to do. There's nothing wrong with both of those. They just don't go far enough. So let's talk about this. Here's the problem. Why intention is not enough. If intention is an aim, well, aiming is not the same thing as actually firing. If you're going to shoot a gun or a bow and arrow or a BB gun or whatever it is, or your video game gun, okay, aiming is not enough. Unless you pull the trigger, you're never going to hit anything. All right. So the definition also says that outside of being an aim, it also could be a plan. All right. So planning is a mental practice. It's not an actual behavior. If nobody takes action on the plan, how is the plan ever going to work? See where we're going with this, with intention? There's a third thing here that I think you're going to find very fascinating about intention not being enough. And it comes from the other definition I shared with you. First I said it's an aim or a plan. Then I said it's a conscious decision to perform a behavior. My friend, deciding is not the same thing as performing, right? If it's a conscious decision to perform a behavior, deciding to do that isn't the same thing as actually doing it. So if there's no active behavior, no active doing, then there's no results. And if there's no results, then how are you going to get what you want? How are you going to get where you want to go? All right, you see where I'm going with this. Okay, intention is beautiful. It's good. It has its place, and it's not quite enough. So let's talk about why. The truth of the matter is there's a path to being able to get from one place to another. And intention is part of that path, and that's why it's good. But it's only one piece in a 5-part path. So let's talk about what the path looks like. So there's a way that things work. There's an order for how things work to get some things done, to get some results and so on. And this is a new way of thinking about getting results because everybody's talking about this, but this is something that most people aren't talking about. And I'm about, in just a minute, going to introduce you to a word that you may never heard before. But it is so powerful, so potent that I think you're going to really want to latch onto this because I think it can really change the game for you. All right, so let's talk about this path. When it comes to accomplishing something, first thing that has to happen is what we call attention. Okay, attention. Attention is just noticing something exists, at least in the immediate awareness, your immediate awareness that something exists. When I say immediate awareness, I kind of mean like you've become aware that all of a sudden there's a bee buzzing around my head here or something like that, right? Okay. When you become aware of something in your immediate attention, okay? Once you become aware of something, you get to have your attention on something, then what happens is what we move to what we call assent. And assent is really kind of like an approval. Assent is like liking something. It's like a pleasurable feeling from going, ooh, that's interesting. So I may have had brought to my attention that as I walked into the house today, there was a beautiful cake on the table. I got my attention, but the next thing that happened is I went into assent, which was like, hey, I approve. I like, that looks good. It looks tasty. It looks pleasurable. So that's what happens next. So we've got, get your attention on something, and then you assent to it, meaning like, hey, this sounds interesting to me. There creates some sort of interest in it. And then after the interest becomes what we call affection. Now, this is really fascinating. There are 3 major parts to our mind. One is called affect, and affect is really about emotions. When you have affection towards something, you have a feeling or an emotion towards it. This is a wanting, a desiring. Okay, here's what's interesting about this is when we get to the affection part, this is us using our will to direct our emotion. Now, this is really important because if you don't know this already, emotion is absolutely critical in being able to take the action to get the results. If you don't feel like it, you ain't going to do it. If you do feel like it, or you feel like you want to get whatever it is that you just got your attention and ascension on, ascended to, then you're going to have some desire towards it. So that's what affection is. Okay, so affection being affect, meaning emotions, one of the three parts of the mind. Okay, and then we finally come down to intention. Okay, so we've had this attention that something exists, the cake on the table, right? Then we had an assent, like approval, interest, desire. Then we had affection, like, ooh, I likey, I want to taste it. And then we have an intention. My intention is I might go get a knife. My intention might be I just go drop my face on the plate and just start chewing. Okay, whatever the intention is. Here's where it gets interesting, and I want to talk about a little bit more about intention and how it works. Intention is a planning for how to acquire that which you have affection for. I know. Ooh, Greg, slow down with the words. Why do you gotta be all fancy? I'm not intending to. I'm trying to be really clear because clarity has a lot of power. And when you're clear that intention is merely a plan to acquire the thing, you are now using another part of your mind, and that's the will, which is directing your thought towards making something happen. Now, we already talked about when you have a plan and you're trying to direct yourself towards making something happen, that thing hasn't happened yet. And this is where most people stop. They do all this stuff about intention, and maybe they even meditate, or they think on, or they plan, or they affirm, you do affirmations, or they do visualizations, and they have this intention, okay? But this is where I wanted to introduce you to that word I promised I would share with you. One that you may not have heard before, but it's the most critical fifth step in this process of being able to make some things happen for yourself. The word is called conation. Conation, conation. Okay, I had a little card to show you here, but I dropped it, so I spelled it out for you. Okay, conation. So here's what conation is. Conation is about the action, but it's not just action. Conation takes your thoughts, your thinking about the thing that you want, like the cake. Okay, and it takes your affections, meaning your emotions about the cake, and it gives it legs. It puts it into action. So conation is really your will directing your intentions and your thoughts and your affections and your emotions and actually moving you to action. This is one of the beautiful things about being a human being is we have human agency, and agency and conation are correlated in that agency is a part of conation, our ability to be able to take what we think and what we feel and give some momentum to it, give some direction and action in a direction with that. This is what conation is. So here's what I want you to know. You're used to the first four steps. You're used to getting your attention on things, and you're used to your assent, which is your approval and your liking, seeing something as pleasurable. And you're used to having affection, right? Emotions towards something and desiring it. And you're even used to intending to get it. What you may not be used to, and what I really want to encourage you to harness, is your ability to conate, to harness conation, which is your willpower directing your emotions and your thoughts in a way to where you can actually take those actions that get the result. How do you do that? How do you conate, Greg? How do you put the stuff into action? The bottom line is that when you've done the first four steps, you are keenly poised to where the next logical step is to take action. But see, what happens is if your thought gets off a little bit, where you're like, ooh, but what if I mess it up? Then all of a sudden that messes up the emotion part. You see what I'm saying? This is the thoughts. The thought are like, ooh, what if I mess it up or I don't do it right? And then the emotions go, oh no, I don't want to look like a fool. And now the thoughts and the emotions are all messed up. You can't get your conation working. Okay? So you've really got to be good at the three parts of your brain. Number one is your thoughts. Okay? How you think. It's called cognition. Okay? Cognition is how you think. Number two, you got to be good at being able to navigate and manage your emotions, which we call affect. That's the second part of the brain. Cognition and affect. Thinking and feeling. Okay? Once you have those two things in place, then when you choose to take action, it's going to be easier because you have those two things working better for you. And that is actually the third major part of the mind. How do I know this? Because I had a gentleman about 10 years ago introduce me to this word conation, and it fascinated the heck out of me. And I kind of had forgot about it for a while. But in recent times, just learning a little bit more about how to be better, how to do more, and how to teach you and share with you and coach you on getting what you want, this came back into my world. You can trace conation as far back as Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas. And it's very fascinating to understand human agency and will and how we're able to use our human faculties, because there's a hierarchy of our faculties. The three highest faculties are our intellect, right? Our thoughts, our will, and our emotion. That's the same thing. Those are the same three things that I told you, the three parts of the mind. And when you get those working in your favor, my friend, you can't be stopped. You can't be stopped. I hope this is really helpful to you. It's not a complicated process, but now that you understand it, I wanted to take time to help you understand the definition of these words and that there is a flow to how you get results, a flow you might not have thought of before. Now you can. All right, here's the deal. You know that I love you, so be great. It's what you're made for. We'll talk soon.